The return of the Champions League to the lane. Villarreal at home. 1-0 win. Get in there. Welcome to Nick's COYS Corner. Well, good start. 3 points in the league stage. Really important. Wasn't exactly a classic match. I don't think it's one that's going to live long, particularly long in the memory. But particularly in the early stages, you've got to get points on the board. Especially, Villarreal are a decent side. And to win at home, another clean sheet. Lots of positives to take out of it, despite it not being a great game. And there are a few issues potentially I think we've all kind of picked up on. And I'll mention them in this video. But overall, look, first things first, we won. 3 points, clean sheet, we're off to a flyer. So I think we were all wondering what changes Frank might make in this match. There was kind of three I was pondering really in my head. So the first was whether Udogie would come in, because obviously Spencer's played a lot. Udogie's coming back from the injury, he's got to build up fitness. And I was wondering whether he might play at left back instead of Spence. But obviously, Frank went with Spence, brought Udogie on. We don't know exactly what Udogie's fitness is like. He, to me, looks like he's still building sharpness, which is understandable, to be honest. But, Spence playing, not going to be too upset about that. He's been really good. Even though there are a few issues of him being right-footed on the left, particularly playing with Xavi, which I'll come to. But that was the first one. Second one was whether Bergvall would keep his place. Now, I was extremely happy that Bergvall did keep his place, because I think everyone knows that I love Bergvall, and I have done since pre-season last year when he first signed for us. So I was really happy that Bergvall played. It was interesting that he didn't play Palhinha. And just as a quick note before I forget, because obviously people think I have something against Palhinha, I thought he was excellent when he came on, Palhinha, and he really stabilised the team and helped us dig in and secure those 3 points. So fair play to him. He was really good when he came in. And then the last position was whether Johnson would come in as well. Obviously, being a first team regular, he hasn't played as much in the last couple of games. And I wondered whether he might come in, but how would he fit him in? Would he drop Xavi for the first Champions League game? I didn't think so. Would he move Xavi central and play Johnson left? I wondered if that might be something he does. But obviously Johnson was on the bench and came on in this game again. So several decisions that I was intrigued to see what he would do. But overall, relatively happy with the lineup. Xavi being on the left, I'm not super happy with. Understandable maybe in the first few games. And hopefully we'll see him kind of push into that central area. Maybe it's difficult for Frank at the moment with the way that Sarr and Bergvall are performing, for example, to try and fit them all in. Villarreal's team, there were a few faces that were recognisable. Juan Foyth returning to Spurs. Nice to see him. He's made a decent career for himself out in Spain, and he's a decent footballer, and he always was. I'm really happy to see him again, and to see him having a good career as well. The return of he who shall not be named on the bench for Villarreal, he got a wonderful reception when he came on. And there was a couple of other players. Nicolas Pepe. Was anyone else absolutely bricking it that he was going to score, having extensively mocked him in his time at Arsenal? Because I know I was. So I was very happy that he didn't score, and that he continued to do his one trick, which was cut inside and try and hit it with his left foot. And he did come close on one occasion, but slightly annoyed Spence didn't show him more on his right foot. And I think a few people mentioned that as well. But overall, Villarreal were a decent side, and it was a pretty good lineup to face them. So the first half, well, I thought we started quite well. We worked the move really nicely for the goal. It was a lovely triangle. It was actually an example of us creating 2 inside and 1 outside by the byline, by the side of the pitch, instead of 2 out there and 1 inside, which is what we've been doing more often. And I think we need to do more of that, where we create 2 players inside and 1 wide. It just presents you with more options and more ability to progress. It was worked really well. Both I made that run. Sunday league goalkeeping at best, shall we say. But, you take it where you can, because, we'll make mistakes across the season as well. But it was one heck of a howler. and we were all having a good laugh in the stadium at that. To be fair to the keeper, he could have completely crumbled. He didn't. I was a little bit frustrated we didn't test him with more shots after that, because I felt we could have really peppered him to see what he was made of. A couple of dangerous counters from Villarreal. It was a few, and to be honest, from my memory and having watched the game back, most of their good chances came from us losing the ball sloppily. That's kind of something that happened last year as well. But yeah, I remember I think it's the chance they missed, the best chance of the half, where it came across and he put it wide. I can't try and remember who it was now. But that came, if I remember right, from Van der Ven giving the ball away sloppily. And so that's something for us to look at, because these sides in the Champions League will punish you generally. You can't get away with being sloppy, and you've really got to try and minimise how many errors you make. So that they were dangerous on the counter, and you could see they were a good side, no doubt about that. We struggled to create much again in open play. I think it's there for all to see. I think that's the kind of talking point coming out of this match and the West Ham game, is we don't look particularly fluid. We're struggling to break teams down and to keep possession well in the final third, to create chances fluidly. We had a couple of shots. I think it was Xavi had a decent one. Had that one really early, that bullet, and I was like, oh, please. But no, it just went over. But that was a bit of a supreme technique on that hit. And Sarr went close to have one saved. There was a couple of chances, but just I want to see more fluency from us in attack and the way we go forward. The penalty shouts, neither penalties for me. Watched it back. The handball thing has got out of hand. But I don't think they're penalties. When they're that close to someone, and I get that I might move slightly, but you're so close. Having played the game, and I would just be so angry if it got given against me. So no issues with the decisions that were made really there. So the second half, I was disappointed that we didn't really try and kill the game off and go for the jugular. Obviously, you don't want to leave yourself wide open and concede a cheap equaliser. I get that, but I felt like we really could have done more to go and get that second goal. And maybe some of it comes back to the way we're struggling to build up and play a good possession football, particularly in the final third. But yeah, I was disappointed by that. And obviously, the longer the game goes on, the more you start worrying you're going to concede a goal, you're going to get sucker punched, and then it's going to be a draw, and you're going to be really frustrated. But luckily, it didn't happen. There's a lack of communication between, I think, the midfielders and the attacking players. And to be honest, the whole team's a bit disconnected going forward. And just the general kind of build-up is hindering us a bit. Obviously got nervy towards the end. I think we got a little bit lucky with the Xavi decision, not getting a second yellow, and with Van der Ven's decision as what could have been a penalty, possibly a red card as well. So maybe we got the rub of the green there. But overall, yeah, I was frustrated by the second half, I have to be honest. But what I will say is, obviously, we got the clean sheet. We held out, we got the 3 points. So overall, really happy to get the win. As I said, really important to get off to a good start. I think the first thing we have to appreciate here is the position we were in last season, losing game after game after game, conceding so many goals. I think we really have to appreciate the effort that's gone in to making us so much more solid and organised. I'm really grateful for that. I think the structure that's been put in place, we look more solid and more organised as a team. We look like we're enjoying defending, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing to enjoy, to relish those one-on-one battles, to relish keeping a clean sheet. That's a good thing, and good to kind of embed into the team's mentality. So I'm really happy with that, and I think it's a really good achievement from Frank and the coaching staff to get 4 clean sheets in 5 matches, and they should be applauded for that. I think to take it to the next level and to really show signs of progression, and to really, this is for me to really excite me and say, yeah, this team can go somewhere under this coach. It's the next phase is the possession game. It's showing that we have more to our possession game than just relying on wide build-up and relying on kind of baiting the opposition out and then playing that longer pass. We've got to show more signs of central progression and more diversity in the way we attack, and more creativity in the way we attack in the final third. So we don't become over-reliant on one way of creating chances. And to be honest, even under Ange, for example, like, we all pretty much knew the go-to play was to try and get it wide and then work those cutbacks, right? And overload the box. So we've had this problem before. But I think the best teams have multiple ways of hurting opponents and multiple ways of building up. And so we really need to look at that. And I'm going to show a few clips to kind of show and emphasize what I mean and how I think we can tweak this. Because I think if we don't do that, teams will find it easier to set up against us, and we will drop points where we don't need to, and it will really frustrate us. Because with the players we've got, and with Frank's ability to adapt and his man management skills, we can do really well this season. And I think if we nip this issue in the bud, and it will take a bit of time, I understand that we've got a lot of new players as well, but if we progress in this area, we'll be a really good side. Because if you can keep clean sheets consistently, which we're showing we can in the early days, and then you add the ability to hurt teams consistently and create chances, that's the mix to be a top side. And we have good players, so there's no reason why Frank can't evolve. Look, I don't mean, at Brentford everyone went on about adapting back five, back four, but that's not what I mean. At Brentford, he evolved his style. He did kind of always rely on that wider build up and quite heavily on the 10 and playing those longer passes, but he's not silly. He's very good at analysis. He talks about it all the time, and I'm sure he will see the areas we're struggling and he'll work on them. And it's hard as a coach when you're playing games really quickly to implement these changes. So we have to have a bit of patience, myself included, and hopefully we start to see some signs of tweaks in our possession game. Because if I see that, then I'm going to get really excited about this team, because I think we can do something really, really special if we get that bit right. Xavi moving inside, I think, would be a starting point to help mitigate some of our weaknesses. Villarreal were a good side, as I said, so I'm really happy we got the win. Really excited to be back in the Champions League. Brighton coming up at the weekend, another tough game in the league, especially away from home. Just going to go to some clips now to show you some shots of things that I think we can improve on and issues we had in this game. And just want to hear from you as well. I want to know who was your player of the match. I'm really interested to see who people thought was the best player on the pitch. I think Bergvall got man of the match, and he was probably mine. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Like, who did you think was the best player on the pitch for us? Let's cut now to the shots for me to quickly analyse some bits for you.
I'll talk about from this match. And one is about build-up and possession, and the other is about Xavi and Spence and the relationship. So the first thing is the build-up. Now, as you can see from this first image, one of the problems I think we have when we're building up across all of our games really is we're quite flat. And you can see here you've got kind of Bergvall and Kudus in a line, and then Porro's, not particularly inside either. And that makes it very, very difficult to progress the play and find angles to play at. And what you'll find with the best teams is they make, and Guardiola's famous for this, is make consistent triangles across the pitch. And what will happen most often is you'll find two players inside and one player's outside. And the reason for that is just the angles you can play with to then progress the ball and create chances. So here's the first shot. You can see here it's quite flat, as I said. And then the second shot here, in our deeper phase when we're building up, we, as I mentioned in the West Ham game, we tend to go long quite a lot. And look at the space here. And there's not a midfielder or a wide player in this area. And so the only real option is that channel ball. Now, it's something that Frank does like, but I do think it's something that he's going to have to evolve and look at, because I just think it limits you in terms of how much you can threaten the opposition, how much you can consistently have good possession. So that's this shot here. The next shot, you've got Kudus, you've got another couple of players here, and they're all, again, quite flat. There's not much there's no one inside in this space here. So it's very difficult for Kudus has no one here to link up with. His only option is to try and do it himself, go inside and then down to the byline, to go outside him, or to go backwards. There's no option for him to bounce a pass inside into this area and then make a run off of the shoulder, or to play the pass in and then that player can turn out and maybe switch the play or play the ball through to one of the attacking players like Bergvall or the striker. Sarr and Bergvall are both positioned really high and there's this big gap. And this is a recurring problem for us in the opening few games. Again here, Bentancur has dropped into the back line to form a back three. Porro's high up and wide here. But again, look at the space. Villarreal have 6 players and there's not a single one of our midfielders or attackers dropping in to try and help progress the ball. And what that means is we're funneled wide. We have to basically progress the ball out to the left flank here or back across and out to the right flank or go long and go direct. It's just too limited. Now, Frank's talking about making us strong defensively. That makes sense for us to create defensive foundations, but this is something we're going to have to look at sooner rather than later. Next up, we've got Xavi and Spence. So this is Xavi, and this is, I just wanted to show, this is one shot where he was narrower, which didn't happen often enough for me. And this is the zone for me we have to get Xavi into all of the time, because when he's stuck out on the touchline, he's limited in how he can influence the play. But when he comes into this kind of area, when he plays in this area, look how many different options he has available to him if he gets the ball. If he gets the ball here, he could feed the ball out right. He could try and drive into the space. He could feed the ball through, try and slip Richarlison in. He could play the ball to the left for Sarr in this instance to get across. Or he could just keep carrying. He's got so many more options to utilise his skill set. And this is the kind of area we really need to get Xavi into consistently. And I think get him central to do that rather than just relying on being from the left. But if he's going to play from the left, then he's got to sort his relationship with Spence. Now, this is an example where Xavi played that overlap to Spence. And the issue we have is Spence is right-footed. And so when Spence gets the ball here, a left footer would naturally look to drive as hard and as fast as possible towards goal on their stronger foot and either hit the ball across goal or square it and try and cross it. Spence ends up playing a poor cross because he's not naturally left-footed and his angles and the way he naturally attacks the ball aren't going to suit being in that position. It was under Ange playing inverted. It was easy because he was coming inside into narrower spaces onto his right foot. That made sense. Here's another example. Xavi does a lovely back heel into Spence. Now, a natural left-footer here on the overlap would drive where the dashed arrow is, straight down the side of the pitch, try and get in behind Villarreal to put the ball across goal, or again, maybe even get your own shot away. But Spence carries the ball inside because that's his natural inclinations to go in there. What ends up happening is he goes inside, he gets stifled, the play slows down, the attack breaks down. Because, again, he isn't naturally left-footed. He wants to come inside. And you've got 2 players on the same side of the pitch who both want to drift in there. And the last example here, early in the second half, Spence picks the ball up, looks to play. Now, when he picks the ball up in this space, a natural wide player, rather instead of Xavi here, a good player here, makes that run where the dashed arrow is. They sprint as fast as possible to take away this man and try and get in behind Villarreal and to stretch the pitch and give Spence, when he carries the ball towards the side of the pitch, he gives Spence that ball down the line then. Now, whether Spence would play it being right-footed, that is another question. But Xavi should be making that run to give depth to the team and attack in behind. But again, that isn't Xavi's natural game. He is a playmaker. He wants to go to feet. And that's what happens. He stops. He gets the ball to feet. The pass from Spence isn't great. There's a lack of communication there. And Villarreal win the ball back. So that's something we really need to work on in the upcoming games. And Frank has to understand also the profile of the players that he's dealing with. Xavi wants to go to the ball, and there's only so much he can do running away from it because it just isn't his natural game. So for me, we need to get Xavi inside into these areas and If he's going to play from the left and get the ball to feet, then the left back needs to be a left footer, a doggy. And every time Xavi gets the ball in this kind of area, bombing on the overlap. So just a quick couple of things I noticed from this game that I think will continue to pop up in the next few games, because it's not easy to fix these things quickly.
So that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. And if you could like and subscribe to the channel, it would be much appreciated, especially in the early days. And as always, come on you Spurs.